What's up guys, it's Phil, and today I'm going to show you how to make some semi-professional drawers. So if you've been watching my updates, you have seen that I did a little bit of an addition here to my shop to kind of add some storage and stuff, and I made some super cool, really large drawers on this side of the shop. So let me show you those. These drawers turned out awesome, and I am super proud of them because they are the same style that I actually install professionally in my clients' homes. They have heavy-duty hardware, they're extremely deep, they're extremely wide, which I really like about them, and they hold a lot of awesome tools, which has been really cool because sometimes my clients need to store a lot of good stuff, sometimes they need a lot of heavy stuff, and just a basic tacked together drawer is not going to work. Now these are also pretty cool because with a little bit of math, they're extremely easy to make. So it's something that I can just do on the fly now at this point, as opposed to having to sit down and actually figure out every single thing. I can just do some basic math, take some basic notes, make some cuts, and everything's good to go. So if you're here just because you needed to figure out how to replace like a kitchen drawer that fell out and you told your wife you could do it and now you don't know what you're gonna do, this is the video for you. If you'd like to learn how to professionally build some drawers, this is one way to do them. There are many other ways that include rabbet laps and things like that that I don't necessarily do, but I've also seen those more high-end techniques done on really cheap, crappy drawers. So I really can't tell you which one is better or not. This is just my method. That being said, this method is going to produce an extremely strong, long-lasting, and easy-to-build drawer. The math is easy to memorize, so you can customize it if you are doing it professionally and batching these bad boys out, or if you're just making one because you need something or you're building your own custom built-ins and have no idea how to size the drawers for that, this is the video for you. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you need to do is figure out your math. So for these particular projects, I have got my openings written down. And I've got the size of the drawers for this particular one because it's going to be a little strange. I'm not going to go into full detail on that, but I am going to use these as the example of how to make your own drawers. To start, you need to measure the opening. So if you're building from scratch, you need to be measuring the opening of your face frames. So this cabinet is actually something like 33 by 27, but my opening is only 30.5 by 25.5. Same thing down here, I've got 25.5 tall and 33 wide. That's the face frame. So not the plywood edges, but the face frame that I've added to that. This is the opening that I have to work within. Also, I have cross beams that are going across here that I need to account for, and same across the middle there. So once you've got your exact numbers correct, it's now time to do the math to figure out how big you want your drawers to be. For example, on this particular project, I want these drawers to only be 3 inches tall. I have about a 3 3/4 inch gap, but I would love to give myself a 1/4 of an inch on the bottom as room for the drawer to slide in and out, which leaves me 1/2 an inch from the top of the drawer to the top of the opening, and my drawer face is going to cover that. On the bottom, I'm going to be doing a giant slide that's going to go in behind some doors, so that's not really necessary to worry about right now. But I'm also going to be doing some very large drawers for these openings in the outside cabinets on the unit that I'm currently building. So let's talk about the math. Now I like to take my opening, and in this case I have a 12-inch opening here and a 12-inch opening here. So I'm going to subtract 1 inch, which is going to leave me with 11 inches for the height of my drawers. That gives me a 1/4 of an inch on the bottom and 3/4 of an inch on the top, and I still have a nice deep thick drawer. For the sides, I simply measured from the front to the back. I subtracted about 3/4 of an inch, and it actually came out to exactly 18. Now the reason I chose 18 is because I can purchase 18 or 20-inch sliders. There's really not a whole lot in between, so I thought it would be easier, since I'm using full extension sliders on this project, to go ahead and use an 18-inch slide. So my sides are going to be 18 by 11, my front face is going to be 29 by 11, and my back face is going to be a split between the two, and we'll talk about that math later. But for now, just figure out what the outside dimensions of your drawer are going to be. In my case, that's 18 by 29 at 11 tall. Now I need to figure out what to cut. Now I've already done the math here, but I'm just going to show you my method. So I know that my drawers are going to be 11 inches tall all the way around, so I went ahead and wrote down 11 for the sides, the front, and the back. Here's why we have a different number. The sides are going to be 11 by my total width, which is 18 inches. I'm going to subtract 3/4 of an inch, which gives me 17 1/4. That's my side. 11 by 17 1/4. I need 2 per drawer, and I'm doing 4 drawers, so I'm going to do 8 cuts on this project. Now, for the front face, I know that my total width is 29, so that's easy math. 11 by 29. Done. And I need 4 of those because I'm going to have 4 drawers and 4 front faces. For the back of the drawer, I take my 29 and subtract 1 1/2 inches, which gives me 27 1/2 inches. So 11 by 27 1/2, and I need 4 of those. So I actually only need 1 front face, 1 rear face, and 2 side faces per drawer. So for each drawer, I'm going to cut 2 11 by 17 1/4, 1 11 by 29, and 1 11 by 27 1/2. So just to make that a little bit simpler, on your drawer, we're going to have a front face, a rear face, and we're going to have 2 side faces. So for the front, you want to take the full size, which in my case is 29 inches. Now, the sides are 3/4 of an inch thick. The front is going to completely cover the front, whereas the rear is going to be seated between the 2 side pieces. So the front face is our full size at 29 inches, whereas the rear is going to be 29 minus 3/4 and 3/4, which is 1 1/2. That leaves us with 27 1/2 inches. Now for the sides, you have the same principle. The front face is going to be connected to the side with a butt joint of the 2 sides. However, the 2 sides are going to end at the very back of the drawer and have a butt joint to the rear of the drawer. So those are going to be the full distance minus 3/4 of an inch for the front face. So if our full distance is 18, then the sides are going to be 17 1/4 inches. So these are the cuts that I need to make. 1 for the front, 1 for the rear, 2 for the sides. Now something that usually gets forgotten at this state is the bottom of the drawer. Now if we just make a 29 by 18 bottom and attach it, that's ridiculous. That's not actually going to work at all. It's going to just fall right off. What we need to do is make it so that the drawer is held in place by a little bit of a mortise that's going to be cut out of each piece, and we'll get to that later. But for now, we understand that our mortise that's going to be cut out is going to be 1/4 inch deep. Okay? That means there's going to be a line cut out of the bottom all the way around our drawer here that's 1/4 inch deep on 3/4 inch pieces of plywood. So it's pretty simple if you think about it. 3/4 inch plywood minus 1/4 inch cut is 1/2 inch. Okay? You have 1/2 inch on each side, front and back. So 1/2 inch times 2 is 1 inch. There's your magic number. So take that 1 inch and subtract it from your total dimensions. So your total dimensions, which is 29 by 17. So your total dimensions, which is 29 by 18, subtracting 1 is 28 by 17. So now I know that I need to cut a piece of my underlayment that is 28 by 17 to fit inside the channel we're going to cut in the bottom of these pieces later on. So if any of that made sense, you're good to go. If it didn't, go back and watch it again, because there's really not an easier way to explain it all. Once you get all your math done, it's time to start doing your cuts. So now it's time to cut the bottoms of your drawer. Now the way we're going to do that is by setting our fence at 1/4 of an inch from the inside kerf of your blade. So for example, my fence is on the right side of my blade. So that inside edge, that corner of the blade, is the inside kerf. And my blade is 1/8 of an inch thick. So I know I'm going to have to make multiple passes on this thing. But for starters, I'm going to set my fence at 1/4 of an inch away from the inside kerf of the blade, pass everything through there, and then we move on to the next step. Once you've cut all of those boards, which for you at home, if you're doing one drawer or a couple of drawers, it's not a big deal. When you're doing 10 drawers in 3 different sizes like me, it kind of sucks. But you get all those pieces passed through and you have your initial cut already made. Before you move on to your next cut, you need to check out your underlayment and see exactly how thick it is. Now I usually purchase my pieces at a place here locally that has exactly 1/4 inch thick MDF core with a birch veneer, but for this project I purchased it at my local home store, which means the 1/4 inch birch plywood is actually 3/8 of an inch. So you need to go and measure yours and make sure that that 1/4 inch plywood you purchased is exactly a 1/4 inch, or if in reality it's actually 3/8 of an inch, which if you purchase it at a big home store, most likely it is. So now to make that cut exactly what we need it to be, my first pass is 1/8 of an inch thick at 1/4 of an inch from the fence. I'm going to now adjust the fence out by just under 1 more 1/8 of an inch, pass everything through it again, then I'm going to adjust it out 1 more 1/8 of an inch, okay? This will now give me a channel that when you do your third cut should be exactly thick enough to slide that underlayment piece right into the channel you've just cut. Should work. Basically 3 passes, 1/8 of an inch at a time, 3/8 of an inch, which is what your underlayment most likely is if you purchased it at a big box store. If you didn't, make 1 more pass, it'll be 1/4 of an inch. Easy math, guys. Another option you have here, which I am absolutely going to use today because I've got a lot of doors to do, is using a dado stack. Now, since we're only using a 3/8 inch thick piece of underlayment, I'm going to set the 2 outermost blades close to each other where their teeth are not hitting one another, and I'm going to set them so that they only have a 3/8 inch thick cut. So consult your dado stack instructions and see how many shims you need to put in there in order to get a 3/8 inch cut. Go ahead and do a test cut, make sure it'll fit your underlayment, and then run all your pieces through it if you're going to be using a dado stack to do this and make it a little bit faster. So now it's time to cut the underlayment. So I'm going to refer back to my list and go ahead and make the most cuts out of each piece that I can get. You're gonna have to do your own math on this one. Unfortunately, I can't help you, but try and figure out how to rip your pieces so you can get the most efficient cuts by getting skinny cuts first and doing your longer cuts on a crosscut saw. Alright, now that you've got everything cut, it's time to start putting it together. Here's how you do that. Alright, so in order to do this, you need to take 2 of your side pieces, 1 of your back pieces, which is the shorter of the 2, and 1 of your front pieces, which is the longer of the 2. Now all of my drawers for this video are going to be longer than they are deep. If you're making like a kitchen drawer or something like that, it's probably going to be a lot deeper than it is wide. Mine are all going to be wider. So they're going to be long, kind of thin drawers. I mean, not really thin, they're actually very big. But they're going to look awkward in this video, so I just wanted to point that out so that you don't think I'm putting it together sideways. So the only tools you're really going to need for this are going to be a drill and driver. It would be really nice to have an air gun so that you can kind of put these things together like an 18 gauge brad nailer. You're also going to want to have some wood glue and a couple of screws. Really, that's it. Now, you want to decide which side is going to be your front. Now, I've been referring to the longer board as the front board this whole time, but you don't necessarily have to have that be your front board. You just have to pay attention to which one is which and which side is facing down. So I'm going to make it so that the channel is on the down side of all of these boards, and I want the channel to always face on the inside. So I'm kind of out of room on my assembly table here, but you get the idea. You want to butt these up against your front board, and then you want to set your back board inside of the two sideboards. Now we're not just going to put them all together like this just yet, because we're forgetting about the bottom. So for starters, you want to glue together one of your sides and your front or your back, whichever one you're starting with. So get a nice bead of glue on there, kind of wipe out some of your excess and spread it around a little bit. This is plywood, so it is going to soak it up pretty well. And we're going to stick it on the side, making sure that everything is nice and flush. So I want the top and bottom flush, and I want this whole side nice and flush right down the side here. Now this step isn't totally necessary, but I like to do it. Get your 18 gauge brad nailer. I have the Ryobi Airstrike with the 18 volt high capacity battery. Alright, you're going to drive a 1-inch brad nail into the top. Make sure everything's still flush, and drive one into the bottom. Making sure you're not hitting that channel, otherwise you're not going to be able to put the board in for the bottom. So now those two are in. To shore everything up, make it nice and sturdy, I'm going to drill out 2 holes here and here and add 2 screws. So I've drilled those with the number 6 Countersink bit. That was really hot. And now I very simply add 2 screws. Not too tight, making sure everything stays flush. And that's why I did a Countersink bit, is so that I can go ahead and drive those screws all the way in, leaving the heads flush or sunken in just inside. And now, you turn it on its side. It's got the face facing down, the side facing up. Take my underlayment, slide it into this channel right here. And you're halfway done. So to finish this, I'm going to start with the other side. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue. Ooh, this stuff's coming out like crazy. Right there along that line. Slide this on the channel. It's not that tight, so it's not necessary to slide it on unless yours are really tight. Then go ahead and slide it in place. I'm just doing that to help keep everything straight. And then I'm going to back it out just a little bit so that everything is nice and flush right there. And that looks pretty good. So turn this up just like that. You want to add your brad nails and add your screws. Last but not least, we have the final panel. For me, that's the back. So I'm going to go ahead and add this in. Now, here's what I want to do. Add a little bit of glue on each side. Some right there. Some on the other side. Kind of rub that in with your finger a little bit. I'm trying not to get too much excess. Now, put this between the 2 boards, and you want to get that center bottom locked into that channel. There we go. Now I can push these together. Now as you can see, my bottom piece is not exactly perfect. It's about a 1/16 of an inch too short, and that's okay, because I didn't want it to be super tight just in case. So flush everything up and pick a side to start on. So I'm going to start here on the left side and go ahead and add my brad nails again. So flush everything up, make sure it's nice and straight. You can use a corner square for this, or a carpenter square if you need to. Maybe some corner clamps. I like to do it by hand because I'm a rebel. Alright, got those two in. I'm going to go ahead and go to the other side and do the same thing just to make sure everything is secure. Those are in. Now it's time to add some screws. And there you go. And that's it. This thing turned out great. These things are awesome. That is a nice, solid, sturdy drawer, and that is a big boy. Not too shabby if I do say so myself. It's a pretty good solid drawer, good solid bottom. It's held in place properly, so it can actually take a pretty good amount of weight without breaking. It's not gonna pop the bottom off like if you just nailed it in place. Now I know what you're thinking. I've seen better drawers in other places. Probably. Like I said, these are quick and easy drawers. They're extremely strong and sturdy. They're also easy to do and efficient. For the DIYer, these doors are cheap and easy. For the professional, they're efficient. No, they're not dovetail. No, they're not the most awesome woodworking technique-y kind of stuff. Even box joints might be stronger, might be cooler, but all of that is so much more time consuming. On a real high-end piece like a chest of drawers, that's typically what I do. On a large thing like these, which are going to be file cabinets later on, I use a pre-finished plywood, and I'd prefer to have the screws in there just because then I'm not relying on the plywood and the joints there to hold everything together. My personal choice, doesn't have to be yours. Again, this is just one way of doing it. There's probably a billion ways out there, but I still wasn't comfortable doing like dovetails or box joints for every single drawer when I've got 6 or 8 drawers to do per piece at 2 pieces a week. That becomes really time consuming, and time consuming becomes expensive. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helps. I hope that you can go out and make your own drawers. The reason I did this video is because I wanted you to understand the basic math of doing a basic drawer that's sturdy, that can be adapted for much heavier use, but can also be used for much smaller drawers and smaller use. So I'm going to keep putting the rest of these together. You guys enjoy your projects at home, and hey, don't forget to subscribe, like, push the button, and do all the things that everybody else on YouTube asks you to do so I can help grow my channel and all that stuff. Click on the links below if you want to help support, because right now I'm only doing Amazon affiliate links, and that's what's really helping me along with this channel. So make sure to click on some of that. Click on some of the other videos because I know there's some stuff on here you like, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching.